So I mentioned not that long ago that I was going to eventually make a video talking about how I got into Super Smash Bros. And Super Smash Bros. Is a gaming franchise I can say that I had a lot of fun with growing up, especially when it came to playing the game with friends, or just my overall experience of getting into the game for the very first time. So I'm happy that I'm able to just sit down here and share my story with you guys of how I got into Super Smash Bros. Because it's just gonna be fun looking back at this later, where I could be like, okay, this is a video where I talked about how I got into this series. So I'm really happy that I'm able to share my story with you guys today, like I said. So yeah, let's get fully into that whole story of how I got into Super Smash Bros. So when it comes to Super Smash Bros, I know I've said Super Smash Bros quite a bit. You're gonna hear me say that quite a bit throughout this video overall, but the whole journey when it came to me in Super Smash Bros. For the very first time, it wasn't the original game. I never had access to the original game. Like, I recall having an N64 in the house. It wasn't mine. I believe it was my father's. Like, whenever I went over to my father's, like whenever he picked me up after school, I do recall that he had an N64 in his house, but I don't remember him ever having Super Smash Bros. I believe the only games he had on there was a wrestling game that I ended up playing a lot whenever I went over to his house. So I never really had the opportunity to play Super Smash Bros. On the N64. I knew about it a little bit later in my life, but I never really had any access to that game when it came out. Same with Super Smash Bros. Melee, which I know is a lot of people's favorite Super Smash Bros. Game. I never had any access to that. I do remember the advertisement for that game. I do remember seeing it all the time as a kid, but I never really got into Super Smash Bros. Melee. Obviously, same story with N64 Smash Bros. I didn't end up getting into Melee until a little bit later in my life, where I went back and played those games eventually. So the very first Smash Bros. Game that I got into was actually Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So obviously, that's going to be a very special moment for me, because that was my first entry into the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. And I don't recall getting the game when it initially came out, because I know that game came out in 2008. I think I got that game in 2010. Like, I remember when I got the Wii for the very first time, I did know that I wanted to get Super Smash Bros. Brawl on that game, because obviously a lot of people were talking about it. It was a big topic of conversation at the time. I always used to visit the website all the time and read the character descriptions of the characters that were in the game. Like, I was just so captured by Super Smash Bros. Brawl that I just always was looking it up online all the time and looking up videos on it all the time. Like, I was just very addicted to that game growing up. So yeah, that was my first entry into the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, and I had a lot of fun with the game. I sucked at it at first, but I had a lot of fun with the game. And one of the reasons why I love Super Smash Bros. Is mainly because I just love how there's all these different kinds of gaming franchises in it. Because obviously I know of series like Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Metroid, because obviously those are series that I grew up playing as a child. I got into like various games when it came to Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and Pokemon growing up, and obviously other series that I mentioned as well. I played a lot of those gaming franchises growing up, but then there was other series that I never heard of, like Fire Emblem. I didn't know what Fire Emblem was, and thanks to Super Smash Bros, it introduced me to Fire Emblem. Same thing with Kid Icarus, which is why I'm a big fan of Kid Icarus to this day. I would have never found out about Kid Icarus if it wasn't for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, when Pit was introduced to be a new playable character in the franchise. So that's how I knew about Kid Icarus, and that's just one of the reasons why I love Super Smash Bros. So much, is because it lets you know about other gaming series outside of like the typical ones that everybody knows about. It introduces like these other series that may not be as popular, or maybe not that many people know what they are. And that's why I knew of Fire Emblem and Kid Icarus and also Ice Climbers, because I know Kid Icarus and Ice Climbers were games that came out in the 80s, but I never really heard of growing up. And obviously I wasn't really born around the time when they first came out either. But thanks to Super Smash Bros., as I mentioned, it helped me know who those characters were. And when I played the story mode in that game, which I honestly wish they could go back to. I'm hoping maybe if we get another Super Smash Bros. Game in the future, we can get another cinematic like story mode in the game, because that would actually be pretty cool if you got something like that with like all these cinematic cutscenes and stuff. I always found that really cool. That's probably why I love Super Smash Bros. Brawl so much, is because of the story mode. I definitely put a lot of time into the story mode, and I recall unlocking a lot of characters in that game just because of the story mode of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But yeah, that's basically like my whole introduction of like Super Smash Bros. As a whole is with Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That's where it got me introduced to everything moving forward. And then obviously beyond that, I followed the Super Smash Bros. Franchise from the 3DS and Wii U, and obviously the most recent Super Smash Bros. Ultimate game, which I do remember to this day going to GameStop for that midnight release to pick up the game and pick up my Ridley amiibo that I ended up pre-ordering around the time, so I could start playing the Super Smash Bros. Game with my friends online. And one of the things that I loved about Super Smash Bros., especially when it came to Nintendo Directs or E3s, like when E3 was actually a thing around the time, one of the things I loved the most was like the cinematic trailers where it was showing you, okay, who's coming next, like what other character is going to be coming to Super Smash Bros. Next. And that was like one of the most hypest things, because if you guys search on YouTube, there's so many different people giving their reactions to like all of these characters getting introduced. Like when you saw Mega Man get introduced, when you saw Bayonetta get introduced, when you saw Joker get introduced, when you saw Banjo-Kazooie get introduced, which I really wish I recorded my reaction to that time, because I felt like I was a little kid on like Christmas morning, like getting that gift I wanted so bad. And I feel like that's honestly what it feels like with some fans. It's like a gaming franchise that you followed for so long that you really wish got more love within the community, but not that many people really know about it. And the game doesn't really have any new games come out anymore, because maybe, you know, the people that are in charge of that franchise, whatever, don't really put as much thought into it anymore. But, you know, definitely looking at the people that really cared about Banjo and just seeing all of the reactions when that character was revealed, obviously they got really happy. I mean, I'm a big fan of Banjo. I got really happy about that. So those cinematic trailers when it comes to Super Smash Bros. Are awesome. And to share a little story of like how happy I got when this certain character got revealed is when I was in high school. And I remember whenever I had access to go to the library, if it was a study hall, or if I was just allowed to go there to like look up a book, or just to chill there after school, because I used to like help run a gaming club after school, and I used to go on the computers there. And I remember during school when I had a study hall and everything like that, and after I got all my work done, I went on the computer, and I remember that was one of the days where it was E3, and Palutena actually got revealed to be one of the next characters in Super Smash Bros. When it was the 3DS and Wii U games. And I got really excited because that was around the time when I got into Kid Icarus Uprising, and I was a really big Kid Icarus fan, and I was just so invested in that game. And when I saw Palutena get revealed, like I had to like keep my excitement inside, because otherwise I probably would have gotten kicked out of that library, because I was just so excited. I was like, oh my god, you know, one of my favorite characters from Kid Icarus got revealed to be a playable character in Smash Bros. And it wasn't just Palutena. Dark Pit was also a character that was introduced to be in that game as well, because Dark Pit was an Echo Fighter, a pit, which I love the whole concept of Echo Fighters, because it was just really nice to see other characters introduced in the game that you really wanted, even if they were like similar to another character and played a similar way. It was just still nice to see them included into the game as well. And I just loved all of that. And I honestly really missed that, because I remember whenever a Nintendo Direct came around, or whenever we had like that summer event where Nintendo was showing off, okay, what game is coming next, and here's who's going to be coming to Super Smash Bros. Whenever somebody was making like a prediction video of their own, I always remember that excitement. I was like, okay, something's going to start off the Direct where we're going to get a Smash reveal, or something's going to close off the Direct where we're going to get a Smash reveal. Like I always remember one of the things on the bingo card that you had for a Nintendo Direct back then was, okay, who's the next Smash Bros. Character is going to be. So that's what kept like the excitement with the Super Smash Bros. Community, was the whole thing of like who's coming next. Because pretty much what Super Smash Bros. Is as a whole, besides everything that I mentioned throughout this video, It's a celebration of gaming history. It's showing all of these different franchises within the gaming community that had a big impact in gaming. Obviously, franchises like Mario's in there and Zelda. And then you had franchises that got popular over time because of Super Smash Bros., like Fire Emblem, for example, being a big focus in that game moving forward when there was a lot of characters added into that game. And then, of course, you had like franchises like Kid Icarus, which wasn't really known as much around that time. But thanks to Super Smash Bros., a lot of people got to know what that is. And that's basically like the best thing about it, is that you can get into other gaming franchises that you might have never heard before. So let's say I wanted to play as Marth, but I never knew what Fire Emblem was. But because I had so much fun playing Marth, I decided to go back and play those Fire Emblem games so I can get more into the gaming franchise, know a little bit more about the characters and backstory and everything, and then I can become a fan of that series. That's just the best thing about it. And like literally anybody that you could think of is in this game. Like you got Mario, Sonic, Pac-Man in this game. Like knowing how there's a game with the 3 of them in there is pretty crazy. Duck Hunt Dog and other franchises as well. Like that's just like really crazy to think about with all of these different kinds of franchises that are in this game. And it gets me really excited moving forward if there is going to be some sort of Super Smash Bros. Game in the future. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see exactly what the plans are for that. So I'm fine with waiting. I mean, I would be surprised if there isn't some sort of Super Smash Bros. Game on the next upcoming Nintendo console, which is the Switch 2. But again, we're going to have to wait and see exactly what happens with that. But other than that, that's honestly what I have to really say for this video. I just wanted to give you guys some insight on like my relationship with Super Smash Bros. And how I got into the franchise. So I'm curious to hear like your guys' story. Like, do you guys have a story that you guys want to share with me with how you got into Super Smash Bros? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. I would absolutely love to hear it. So if you guys enjoyed the content that I provided you on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow your boy on social media and see what I do outside of YouTube, be sure to follow my Twitter, my Instagram, and TikTok. It is located in the description below. As always, make sure to click on the bell for notifications so you guys are notified whenever I upload a new video. And other than that, I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be. If it's daytime, the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.